All right, everybody, welcome into the Lantern Sports Preview Show. I'm your host, Casey Smith, alongside Gabe Burggraf. Today, we got a big matchup on tap for you. Number 2 Ohio State against number 5 Notre Dame under the lights at the Shoe on Saturday. Gabe, who are some people to watch for this matchup?
For the Buckeyes, I think the defense is what everybody's wondering about. And some of that veteran leadership Zach Harrison provides, the 2021 captain of the Ohio State squad, one of the guys with a lot of experience that we're talking about. 33 games played, the most of any defensive end for Ohio State. It'll be interesting to see how the game starts out. If Notre Dame wants to run the ball like they say they want to, Zach Harrison and some of those guys need to get past the line of scrimmage into the backfield. And if Harrison can do a little bit of that early, it might get some of those guys who may have jitters and don't have the excellent experience and repertoire he does, like JT and Jack Sawyer, to kind of find their groove and get into the game and make big plays. For Notre Dame, most of the questions are offensively. So with that being said, a couple of brothers are going at it in this matchup. Sonny Styles for the Buckeyes at corner. We may see him match up a little bit against his brother, Lorenzo Styles, who played in all 13 games for Notre Dame last year, tied for second on the team in yards per catch last season, and he really didn't start out too hot. He didn't have a great start to the season, had only a couple catches here and there until the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State, where he had 8 catches, 136 yards, and actually opened up the scoring with a 29-yard touchdown catch. So it'll be interesting to see if we get to see that brotherly matchup one-on-one. We may not, but Oklahoma State felt it when he played them in the Fiesta Bowl.
Right, it's really interesting you mentioned the questions on Notre Dame's offense. There are absolutely zero questions with Ohio State's offense. They had the number 1 offense in the country last season, and they returned their big 3 with C.J. Stroud, Travion Henderson, and Jackson Smith-Njigba. They had a little bit of shuffling on the offensive line last season, and coming into this season. Paris Johnson slides over to the left tackle spot. Donovan Jackson, Matthew Jones, they slide into the starting roles. So that'll sort of dictate a little bit of Ohio State's game plan. They were able to get 37 sacks last year as opposed to allowing 17. So keeping C.J. Stroud upright is really going to be a key. But you mentioned sort of that defense that Lorenzo Styles went up against. New defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, he had his fingerprints all over that game, even though he wasn't on the sidelines for that Fiesta Bowl. But his main job is to shore up Ohio State, allowing 126.8 rush yards per game last season. I mean, that was the reason they lost to Oregon and Michigan. Both those teams were able to get over 260 yards on the ground and really control the pace of the game. So that if Notre Dame wants to come into the Shoe and pull off the upset, they're going to have that same game plan and take advantage of a new Ohio State defense still trying to get their feet wet and adjusted to the new Jim Knowles scheme. As for Notre Dame, though, they're coming in with a new quarterback. That's part of the questions you were talking about. Tyler Buckner, he gets tabbed as the guy that's going to be starting for the Fighting Irish under the lights, and he was more of a dual threat guy last season. He was used a little bit more in sort of mop-up roles, if you will, but 336 yards on the ground as opposed to 298 through the air. So if they're able to sort of establish the run and make up for the loss of Kyron Williams, they're able to sort of, I don't know, dictate the pace. I mean, they want to establish the run. Maybe you open up some holes and run a little bit of misdirection with a read option and keep Ohio State's defensive ends honest, and that'll open up a little bit of the inside running lanes as well. On the defensive side of the ball, they're returning a ton of their starters, including Isaiah Foskey, who is an absolute game wrecker there on the defensive line and can make life for C.J. Stroud a living you-know-what. So, I mean, 41 sacks a season to go for Notre Dame's defense. It's really, really just a disrupting, game-wrecking type crew that they have in those 4 down linemen. And in the second quarter, they're outscoring opponents 154-63. So if they're able to have that sort of ground and pound, really grind you out mentality and keep it close in the first quarter, Ohio State might be in trouble going into the locker room if Notre Dame, is able to put up a couple scores and make this a little bit of a lengthened game and make Ohio State have to come from behind. So, I mean, that's all we have laid out for you. I mean, there's only one way to find out. You have a plan until you get punched in the face. Mike Tyson, I mean, under the lights, 7:30, College Game Day, LeBron, Jack Harlow, Justin. It's just a perfect storm, and something special is really going to happen Saturday. And be sure to tune in for all of our coverage. We'll have all that magic ready to roll for you. For our writers, Jacob Binge and Stephen Kishball, they'll have you covered on the game recap and the post-game analysis. Gabe and I will have you covered on the highlights. Be sure to follow us on all socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We'll have it all there. For Gabe Burggraf, I'm Casey Smith. We'll see you next time, and take care.